If I were you and I was on the button, I would sort of raise my eyebrows here at this bet and I'd try to figure out, what am I trying to accomplish? Do you think that the big blind is...
To me, and I have king 10 of diamonds on the button, and I open to 30.
Okay.
Small blind folds, and villain 3 bets to 95. And
Big
I call.
blind to 95. What's the deal with this guy?
So he's an older gentleman,
Okay.
but he's tight, and he knows what he's doing, more or less. Like, he's not like an older gentleman that's like limp calling and things like that. He's pretty solid in the game.
So, and he's got you covered. So you open the button with a 2450 stack to 30 with king 10 of diamonds. He 3 bets 95. Obviously, you've got a very standard call here, to the point where king 10 off really might even king. The later here's the thing with 3-bet defense theory, right? If you are opening a certain percentage of hands and you get 3-bet to 3 or 4x, you're supposed to call with a certain percentage of hands. Doing out the math, the smaller, the more hands you call with. Let's just say that at little over 3x, you call with, say, 40%. I think it might even be more than this, but let's say 40% of hands. You're going to call with a lot more on the button than you are from UTG, right? Because if you're opening 10% of hands from UTG or less, 40% of 10 is 4% of total hands. If you're opening 40% of total hands on the button to the first raise and you get 3-bet, you're defending with 40% of 40%, 16% of total hands. So that's where like some of these like king X suiteds become defend, king jack off plus, probably any 2 Broadway cards. Obviously king 10 suited is a slam dunk call. Okay, so the pot now is 190.
Yeah, 195.
Oh, 195. Okay.
So flop is queen of diamonds, jack of hearts, 3 of hearts.
Queen of diamonds, jack of hearts, 3 of hearts. So you're open-ended with a backdoor diamond draw, right?
Yeah. Open-ended backdoor diamond draw. So villain leads for 85.
Okay.
And I think about raising here, but I choose to call. I feel like I can rep hearts better.
Well, you can just also bet the turn 1 check too, right? Like if he's
Sure.
if he's got like ace 6 of spades, and he's over c betting here, he probably should be giving up on the turn, and you can just bet, and you can take this sort of variable turn sizing that I like to talk a lot about on my podcast, where you're very balanced here. If check 2 on a brick with like a 1/3 pot size bet, where you're betting some hands for protection, like queen X, maybe even jack X's. You might have some very thick value that was slow played on the flop, and then you've got some draws too. So looks like the pot's like 365, right?
Yeah, correct.
All right. Yep.
So the turn is a 6 of hearts.
Okay, so the front door comes in now. Yep.
And villain bets 235. And I choose to rep hearts at this point.
Wow, interesting. I do remember your email now. Yeah, this was interesting. So he comes out and bets large on the turn for what this card is, right?
About 2/3.
Yep. Okay.
And then I raise to 665.
Now, if I were you and I was on the button, I would sort of raise my eyebrows here at this bet and I'd try to figure out, what am I trying to accomplish? Do you think that the big blind is bet folding what do you think the big blind's range is? And do you think the big blind is bet folding the turn? Like, is the big blind betting like black aces or ace queen and it's going to bet fold here on the turn?
Right. So after analyzing the hand, well, I think he would fold like ace queen without like the ace of hearts or like ace, but then he wouldn't be betting. I realized later that he just wouldn't be betting the turn.
So what is he betting here? You see what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, I guess he could be betting aces with the ace of hearts.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but I still don't think that's going to fold though.
It won't fold.
Right. I mean, right. What is he betting for value and bet folding is the question. And if you can't find a hand, then it's probably not a great raise.
Sure. No. I after analyzing myself, I agree 100%. Just at the time, I thought a heart would be better for my range versus his range. So I decided to rep a heart here.
Well, you probably have more suited hands than he does, right? Because again, when you take a look at there is no call in between pre. So if you're just sort of taking a look at percentage of hands in total and with ranges and stuff, if you're opening 40, 50% and then defending of that, like nearly half, you have a ton of hands. Whereas he might not be three betting all that wide because he can call with a lot. I mean, although it is a late position open. So yes, the heart is probably better for you, which is why I would kind of raise my eyebrows, because I don't know what is really supposed to be taken here for a 2/3 bet from his perspective. A lot of people don't think about that, and it might not even necessarily be all that applicable to a lot of spots, but that's why it's kind of a little bit peculiar. So, okay, so you raised to 665.
Yeah, and villain calls. And
all right, so you guys put in 1330 right on the turn, so it's six. Though it's probably like 1700, right?
Yeah, 1695 is the pot.
So, and you also have
I have 1605 behind.
Okay, so almost just under a pot
size bet.
Yeah. Okay. All right, what's the river?
The river is the ace of clubs.
Oh, so you make a straight.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he checks to me,
and
I end up jamming, trying to get value from.
Man, here we go again with this thing. If you heard the caller from before,
I did.
If you heard from the caller from before, where the guy jammed into Queen Jack of clubs, I mean, you would think that this would be almost like representing a very high flush with your sizing here, like sort of a polarizing thing. So I'm not sure like what he sort of defends down with. I just, this could be a slightly unbalanced spot in a lot of places in live poker where you might bet with a higher volume or bet larger and sort of size down here for value. I had a hand that was similar, a little bit similar to this when I think the last time I played live stream, which was a couple weeks ago in the lodge, this guy like min raised me from the big. I had opened like ace 4 off from the button with the ace of diamonds, and this guy like min raised me. I think he misclicked out of the big blind, so I defended, and the board came out. I think the board came out like queen 5 deuce with 2 diamonds or 2 hearts. I had ace 4 with the ace of hearts, and he bet and I called. I had the stiff heart and a wheel draw. The turn was a heart. It was like the 8 of hearts. So I've got the ace of hearts. So he checks, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go bet on this guy. And he check called the turn when the flush came. And then the river brought in and made me a wheel. So it was like queen deuce 5, 8 of hearts. I've got ace 4 with the ace of hearts. He check calls turn. Now the river's an offsuit 3. And he checks. And it was like, okay, now does that change my thinking here now that I'm going for a little bit of value? I don't know if I would jam here. I might just go sort of half pot here.
And then bet fold. Obviously, if he jams on you.
I mean, I don't bet fold. I mean, is it?
He's never like he's if I bet half pot. If I bet half my stack and then he raises, he's never doing it with a set.
Well, I mean, here, whether this is reality or not, I get a lot of flack from comments, and I from some people in YouTube comments, and I kind of giggle. Like there was a hand that we posted up like last week where I don't remember specifically what it was, but somebody could have been. Oh, I think it was the Lex hand actually. It was the Lex O hand from my couch, where he called the check raise on the river, and he had a straight on a 4-liner Broadway board. I don't know if you saw this hand, and the guy check raised him at the end on a 3 flush. And I was trying to find the bluffs. I'm like, this guy would have to be turning like middle 2 pair, like king queen with the king of diamonds into a bluff. And people in the comments are like, if I had king queen with king of diamonds, I'd always bluff here. And I was just like, even though I had said in the video, like I've literally never seen it on a live stream, never seen it in my own play. Here, it's interesting because you could say the same thing if someone had like the ace of hearts. Would somebody, check raise bluff you with the ace of hearts here or something like that? I would very rarely expect to get, although it is somewhat consistent though with the line where he continued to bet. I'm talking about having the nut flush where he continued to bet turn, called your raise, and then check raise, sort of on the river. But I just think a little bit more efficiently, I would probably not jam here. I'd kind of size. But you jam, and what happens?
Well, he calls off and he has the nut. He has ace king of hearts. But I thought he can have, let's say he has aces with the ace of heart. Like once my turn race was already like bad, but once I'm here on the river, and he does have that hand, he's blocking the nut flush. So
No,
I feel like
okay.
he could call off with a hand like that, or like queens with the queen of hearts. They both made sense to me.
I mean,
So
it's possible. Let me
so,
ask,
so he has so in
do
theory he
you
has more
raise
combos with the heart, right, than
do
he does
you
of flushes.
do you raise non-nut flushes on the turn, or do you just call?
I probably raise.
Really?
Hmm.
Because again, the bet is so kind of bizarre here that it is interesting for me if I had a non-nut flush and the hand has already started to go off the rails with this turn bet, where I might call for the reasons of trying to let somebody run like one of these like ace king of hearts bluffs across at the end, right?
I'd probably raise it depending like how high the flush would be. But if it was like say 7, 8 of hearts,
Yeah.
then I think I would raise. I would feel like it needs a little protection.
Here's what I think that though I think I like my advice a little bit more than your thinking. Your thinking is sound with those blocker things. Just the question is that is that opponent, is he at that level though? When he's putting that stuff together of, oh, I've got the queen of hearts or I've got the ace of hearts, so I'm going to call. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that off the cusp, I think a smaller bet is a little bit more efficient. Obviously, you would have got check jammed on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Right. I
so
mean, I did think about it. I'm like, I thought about maybe betting less, but then if he jammed on me, I had to fold. So I don't know. I
Mathematical
thought,
55 says, I agree with the caller. A good player might well call with the ace of hearts. Like I said, I don't think it's definitely not unsound logic. It's just, you know, what players are you playing against? You know, he said, you know,
he, he,
hey, I
he,
said,
he
I made a comment about someone being female last hand. I'm going to make an ageist comment here too. And it's not generally like, it obviously doesn't apply to everyone. I would say in general that older players might be a little bit less studying some of the newer concepts than a
we
younger
had a
player.
previous hand together where he folded a 3-bet river versus me on a 4-4-8 king 3 board
Mm-hmm.
rainbow,
Mm-hmm.
and he had ace 4 of hearts, and I had a top full house, and he ended up making a really amazing fold on the river.
What,
So he
he raise folded the river?
he, he bet folded the river
Just bet and then folded to a raise.
and then folded, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So he is a thinking player.
Yeah. No, I mean it's definitely interesting. So how is that game been, by the way? The 5-10 game.
It's been pretty decent.
Yeah.
Like there's good and bad days, but like mostly like when like there's times like during all the Euros come, you kind of just have to like table change and
When all the Euros come, yeah, of course. You gotta move
but like
around, you gotta be
yeah,
diligent.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you can still find good soft games. It's good.
Oh, okay.
I would recommend playing there.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, I mean, I'm definitely. Some people ask me, "Am I going to be playing when I go to LA?" Absolutely not. I just, doing 5 hours or 6 hours a night of commentary is just the last thing I want to do is play afterwards. Is just, draining. And I actually have some things to do in LA to visit some friends that I haven't seen in a couple of years. So I will not be playing. Although my wife, who really likes Ultimate Texas Hold'em, she might be playing some of that at the Hustler. Be interesting to see how that game plays out at the Hustler, because we took a trip to Vegas and I was still astounded at some of the dealer mistakes that I saw, and also the allowing of river press bets, if people know Ultimate Texas Hold'em. But the interesting thing about California is because you're not playing against the house, you're playing against the corporation. They're probably not going to let that shit slide. So I imagine they'd be watching it like hawks. But George, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.